This is an alternative and quite often a preferred view to see items inside of Monday.com Sales CRM, and we'll be walking you through what it is and how to set it up. By the way, if you'd like us to help you set up Monday.com for your business, check out the link in the description below. Anyway, as you can see here, I'm inside of my example Monday.com Sales CRM system. Now, in today's video, I'm going to be walking you through a slightly different view that means you will no longer have to scroll endlessly to find the data that you are looking for, especially on heavily populated boards, or essentially where there are lots and lots and lots of different columns and different data points. There is another way of managing that information, viewing that information, and interacting with the record itself. So as you can see, this applies to Monday Sales CRM. This does not, unfortunately, apply to work management. I'm unsure about service and dev, but definitely not work management, and I will demonstrate the difference later on in this video. But as you can see here, we've got a series of different data points. Now, this deals board is relatively small, but what we would often want to do, or what we would want to avoid having to do, is scrolling across like I just mentioned. So what you can do is you can press this bubble icon on just on the right-hand side of the name of that particular item or record or whatever you want to call it, okay? And then you'll be presented with this screen here. Now, if you've just created this board from scratch, you're going to be presented with very little, in the sense that we've got your emails and activities widget. You might not be familiar with that, so I will walk you through it in this video. And there's not a great deal more. Up the top left hand corner, you can go to updates, you can go to files. So updates, essentially you can write an update in association with a particular record. You'll be able to go to the files, so that's all of the files from all of the different file columns uploaded onto this particular item. And you've got more, such as the activity log, so the interactions with this particular record. And you can add more views if you would like to. However, we're not focusing on those views. We're focusing on what's actually described as a customizable view. In other words, the first view that you're presented with here. Now, what you can go and do is press the three-dotted button in the top right-hand corner, and you can edit layout and content of this particular view, and we can then customize this to our heart's content and entirely reshape how people interact with records inside of Monday.com, because there is now going to be an entirely separate view or series of views or widgets within this view, whatever the terminology might be, to then see the data that they need to see, make changes, updates, etc., etc. So if you go to add widget, top left hand corner here, you can see we've got a few different options. Now I will start with the deal stages, because that's at the very top, right? So if this is a sales pipeline, a leads pipeline, or any pipeline of any description, you can go ahead and add deal stages to this view. Now the deal stages will be mimicked from the status column on the board itself, and obviously respective to each of the items. So you can see here we've got new, active, in negotiation, in contract, and then closed, and then we've got won or lost as our different options here, which is something that a lot of people have always wanted within Monday.com, having this kind of slightly different view and style of working as opposed to having to scroll across, and this function then makes it available. So you can also customize this as you see fit. So you can press the settings column, and that can be done either just pressing that cog on the left hand side here, or going to the three-dotted button and going to settings. Can it actually? That's very odd. Apparently not. Apparently you have to press that cog on the left hand side here. Very strange. Anyway, when you do press that cog, you're presented with this screen here. Now you can see we've got a number of different options. So I'll just walk you through these. On the right, we can select the status column that we would like to use. So as you can see, and in my instance as well, I have a number of different status columns on my deals board. So I've got contract terms, payment terms, deal type. But the status column that I want is obviously the status or the stages of the sales process, and that's best represented by the status column. I can now choose to select which labels from that particular status column. So if I select deal type, you can see that they change. I can select which are visual. If I don't want to have a particular stage in view, I can unselect it, and I can also reposition them as well. So if I want to reposition them on the pipeline, you can do. That probably wouldn't make sense given that the status layout is going to be based on the stages of the pipeline. The further you go down the status, in theory anyway. So in reality, some people don't have the status column set up that way, but I would also always have the first column being the first stage of the process, the last column, or not the last column, the last option within the status column being either won and or lost. Okay, so you can set that up. You can then final phase of the labels. So we've got closed here. We could have ended. You can see what I mean by when you select that option, you either win it or lose it, but you would be closing it in this particular instance. And then you can select the label for complete button. So one status equals the complete button, and then the lost status option is set the label for the incomplete button. But you can change this to in contract if you wanted to. I mean, that wouldn't ever make sense, but that's something you can do. If you do make changes, just be mindful that the status column function changes at the top here though, okay? And then we've got on the left-hand side here, we've got some data points that are just being shown. You can select what you would like to show. You can only have 3, unfortunately. So if I unselect person, well, let's have person, so I can assign myself. I will have contract value, and we'll go and add that in a moment. And then I might just have those 2. I think that will be suffice for me. And then choose the colors of the bars. So maybe I want to go purple in this particular instance, okay? So now I've made some changes to my widget here. I can then go ahead and close this down. What I'm going to go ahead and do is just add some value. So I'll add a contract value of, let's say, 500 or 1,000, and then the other one, let's just assign this to myself as well. So then when I click into this, you can see here that it's assigned to myself. I've got the value of the contract, which is 500,000. And then if I change the status to active, it moves to active. This will then automatically update the status on the actual record itself. Okay. So going back to here now, we've got our deal stages, which are very fancy. Obviously, if you get to closed, you can then either win it, you can reopen it, you can mark it as lost if you want to. So you work through the different stages of the pipeline. But there's other stuff that we can add to this view as well. So this isn't a one-trick pony, as they say. So we can go 3-dotted button again, edit layout and content, and we can add further widgets. So another very common widget would be the information widget, okay? So now you can see, and this is probably quite interesting to you, and before we go ahead and kind of go through this, I'm just going to mention that you can reposition, reorganize, and resize all of the widgets that are already on the board just to make them fit. But you can see here we've got this information widget that we've just added. Now this information widget shows you all of the data on the record, but as opposed to being horizontal and you having to scroll across, which is quite common, you can see here that this is all just bolts into one place. Now the nice thing about this as well is if you press the 3-dotted button and go to settings, you can decide which data points you do and don't want to show in this particular widget. So I'm going to remove the board. I'll remove, let's say, the account ID, remove the status. We don't need that. What I'll do also is I'll remove membership/contracts, TTC, date created and date closed, or whatever the way around it was. And then I might leave account start date and end date in here, or actually let's remove these 3. What else do I want to remove? Let's leave name, person. We could actually have the account. I'm just trying to think, because what you can do is you can have, let's say, basic information. So core information. So this is just information that's pretty standard, right? So what I could go ahead and do is, let's say, remove the deal type, contract terms, payment terms. So I've got the value, or I can have the account ID, the name, the person, the account ID, and then the account. And I can have data sat in there, and that's what we have classified as core information. But then what I can go ahead and do is I can add another information widget like I've just done so here. And then within this one, I could have this, let's say, deal information. So this is more specific to the deal itself. The core information is just general. Who's the contact? Who's the account? Etc. etc. So then I go 3-dotted button settings, and then I can unselect everything. So unselect everything, bar deal type, contract terms, payment terms, contract value, don't need status, could do start date, end date as well. So now I've got very key data points for my deal itself. I've got core information. I've then got deal information. If I then change the status of these, obviously to, let's say, renewing, 12 months, payment terms annually, let's enter in a start date, 21st, end date. We could do 21st, 2026 as an example. This is obviously updating the record itself. As you can see here, it's entirely different. The data is populating actively. If I just change this status to in negotiation, bring it up, because I'm not sure if you can see everything because of my big head. But now you'll be able to see all of the relevant information. And as we update it within the system or within this function here, it's obviously then also updating on the actual record itself. And there's no limit to this as well. What I found with clients especially is they have a preferred way of viewing certain data, so they want to see specific information. So you can see here now that I've got core information, deal information. I could then add another widget and I could go information again, size this down, make this as opposed to a vertical, we've gone, no, sorry, as opposed to vertical, no, as opposed to horizontal, we've gone vertical. And then you can see here that we can just, it's so much easier to look at, right? As opposed to having to scroll across. So that makes things very possible, or very different, I guess, possible, different, preferable. Let's go with that. You also have some display options. So fit to width, single, double, triple. These are the sizes. I don't know how much these work or not. And then you can also select show only columns with values, or just show all columns. And again, you can unselect and select whatever you want to be able to see. So there we have it. Those are this. So this is like tracking information. There we go. So you can customize this to your heart's content, but hopefully this gives you a good idea of what's possible. We also obviously have the emails and activities widget. Now I have covered this in other videos, but essentially you can add activities relating to this particular record, and you can also send and receive emails directly from monday.com here as well. So I would click into that record, press new email, compose an email to the contact record associated with that particular deal. It would then be logged here, and I could see all of the activities. So if I add a call summary, this is example call, it would then log as a, as a new activity record, and I could see all of the past activities associated with this deal over the lifetime of the deal as well. If you want to learn more about this, check out other videos on my channel. I go into a bit more detail on that in those videos. So what other widgets have we got? We also then have item description. So add rich and detailed description to your item. So you can click that, and then this is just an item description. You can go ahead and write in information about the item itself. I have no idea how valuable that is. I probably would never use it, but at least you know it's there. And then we also have connected boards. Okay, so connected boards is really, really helpful. This will allow you, or it will show you all of the items connected to this particular record. Okay, so we can see here that there is a CRM Crew Limited account record associated with this particular deal. So I can then go ahead and click in, and I would be able to see all of the accounts associated with this particular deal. So I could go to three-dotted button, edit. I can then edit this function. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring this up to the top here, because I suspect you won't be able to see. So we got all of the data. We go three-dotted button and then go settings, and then you'll be able to select, choose a connect boards column. So which connect boards column that we're going to pull data in to, or from, and then we can select on the connected board which data points that we want to mirror across. So I'm going to select memberships, deals. This is the key data that I would want to be able to see. Then I've got some more settings. So sort boards by order, and then you can also have double, single, triple height for each of the records associated, and then we can choose to hide or show which groups from that particular board that we want to see. And then you've got the customized column matching, which is slightly different. But hopefully this gives you the idea, a good idea. But what's also possible is you could have the account connected boards, and then you can have memberships and contracts as well associated. What I would personally typically do though is I would have accounts, or what's more common I would say is you would have contacts. Okay, so in a real life example, you would have the contacts associated with this particular deal. Now, quite often, especially with larger deals, there are often more than one point of contact, or not necessarily point of contact, but more than one contact associated with the deal. So you'd be able to see all of the contacts associated with that particular deal and all of their information as well, as you can see here. So I appreciate the naming convention of accounts, and then it's showing all of the email, phone, location is a bit odd, but this allows you to mirror over data. Not necessarily, it is in essence, I suppose, mirroring over data to all of the connections that are associated with this particular deal. Okay, so you can see that CRM Crew Limited is connected, CRM Crew Limited is connected here as well. But when you click in, it is just going to show you the connected data points for each of those records. Okay, so not both, just each of them. not both. What am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to say is, if you click into this record, it's not going to show you information about this record. Okay, just to be super clear. And of course, like all of the other widgets that we've got on this board, you can have the same widget twice. So if you want to have another connected board, so you could have one for contacts, you could have one for accounts, you can do. We then have a text column, so you can see and edit your text columns in a view. So you can go ahead and select the text columns. Again, this is kind of like the item description thing. I personally probably wouldn't ever look to use that, but again, you can mess around with that if you want to. You can also see column values from your sub items. Now, this is quite helpful. If you have any sub items associated with the item that you've clicked into, so let's go ahead and add one. So I'll call this example sub item, hit enter, and then we go to here. We'll be able to see the sub items associated with this particular item, the status of them, the date. We can see all of the new columns. We can add new sub items directly from here as well. We can choose to hide or show which data points are being, or which data points are visible. I'm pretty sure if you go to three-dotted button, edit layout, and go three-dotted button, are those the only settings? They might be the only settings, but needless to say, this is quite helpful as well. So you can go ahead and see, manage all of the sub items associated with the parent item. It's probably a little bit easier to view potentially anyway. Let's say you go new sub item, then you get this pop-up screen, example sub item number 2. We can assign a status, an owner, let's say a date. Obviously we create that sub item record that should then create here. If I then close this down, obviously that new sub item has been created as well. So that's a nice feature. I like this. I really like the sub items. I also like the connection columns as well. In fact, a lot of this I really do like, to be honest with you. So if I go to three-dotted button, edit layout and content, let's just reposition this so it's not so messy. So I'll bring that down here. I'll bring the accounts down here as well. I'll bring that back up. Don't know why that's ended up down there. There we go. So now I've got my overview with the emails and activities, data or information broken down by kind of how I want to categorize it. And then we can go ahead and just expand this and expand this down here so it fits the whole page. So now we're kind of building out a preferred view of how to manage a deal within inside of Monday Sales CRM, as opposed to just trying to work horizontally. It's different. I actually really like the way that this has been set up. And then finally, you've got things like files gallery. So you can add a files gallery and see all of the files associated with this particular deal. That's very much the same as if you went to the files view up the top here. So it's up to you again if you want to have that or not. I would try and keep this as clean as you possibly can. The less information, the better, in the sense that you don't want to overwhelm someone that's clicked into this. But again, that's kind of your decision, really. And then we got deal insights. See which deals are at risk and get AI-powered action plans to save them. I'm not even going to bother clicking on something like that. How Monday would be able to work out what's at risk and what's not, I don't know. But that's something you're more than welcome to mess around with. So once we're happy with this, just press done editing. We now have a live view that we can now continue to use within Monday Sales CRM. We no longer have to use this standard view. We just go click in and you can see here we've got all of the data that we want available to us at a click of a button and probably a preferred view. Now, this is all well and good, but this is only for Monday Sales CRM. And I really want to emphasize this, because if I go and show you on the work management side what this would look like, if you click in, write a new update, you just get this view on the right hand side here, and there's no fancy widgets we can add or anything else. So just be really mindful of that. This is only available on Monday Sales CRM. So where's my YouTube demo? There it is. So it's possible within here, and you can make changes. You can set it up how you like. It's not possible within work management. I can't speak on service or dev. I'm not 100% sure. But a lot of people have just moved over from work management to sales CRM just for this, and also emails and activities, because it's a better way of viewing information for sure. And then when Monday removed the emails and activities function from work management, that obviously drove a lot of people over to sales CRM. The reality is, though, there's not a lot of difference between work management and sales CRM. You don't lose, as at the time of this video, and to the best of my knowledge, I don't think you lose anything by moving from work management to sales CRM. unless, and the only caveat to that is if you're on the enterprise version, then you do lose some stuff. But that's the situation. Hopefully this video has helped, giving you an insight in how to better view your deal information within Monday Sales CRM. I'm certain your sales team will prefer it, or you'll probably prefer it. Obviously, this can be applied to every single board within Monday Sales CRM, so it's not specific to just leads and deals. Hopefully this video has been helpful. If you would like us to help you set up monday.com for your business, check out the link in the description below. We would love to help. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Ciao.